I want to show you one that's in Delta Math that asks you to do adding and subtracting radicals, but it has adding and subtracting radicals that have variables in it. And so it kind of combines some of the skills from last section with this section. So I figured it made more sense for you to hear me do one. If you still need more examples, you can watch the Delta Math help videos or look at that. But I figured one would help tremendously. So I just picked this one. This was the first one that popped up on my screen. So at first glance, they are not like radicals. So we need to break them down as much as possible using the techniques from earlier in the chapter. So we're going to take 45, not a perfect square, but 9 is. So we're going to write it as 9 times 5. X to the 5th is not a perfect square, but x to the 4th is. So we're just going to have to drop down 1 power, which leaves me with x left over. Now I'm going to go over and do the same thing with the second radical. 80 is not a perfect square, but 16 is. 16 times 5. X to the 3rd is not a perfect square, but x squared is, leaving me with an x. So kind of like I did in the previous lesson, I like to write down my leftovers. So in the first radical, I still have the negative 5x out front. I also am going to bring the square root of 9 out front. That's 3. And I'm also going to bring the square root of x to the 4th. So everything I put in a box that was perfect. So the square root of x to the 4th is x squared. All of that stuff comes out in front. And I still have a 5x left under the radical. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. It starts with a negative x squared in front. And then I'm going to take the square root of 16, which is 4. And then I'm going to take the square root of x squared, which is x. And I still have a square root of 5x left. I got a lot going on here. I need to take everything that's in front and multiply all that stuff together. So in the first one, I have a 5 times a 3. It is negative, so I get negative 15x to the 3rd. And then I still have a 5x under the square root. And then when I multiply my x squared times negative 4x, I get a minus 4x cubed. Now, after all that work, I am left with like radicals. So now, and I have coefficients that I can add in the beginning. So I have a negative 15x cubed minus 4x cubed, which is a negative 19x cubed, x cubed, square root of 5x. So I'm going to write in my screen negative 19x cubed square root of 5x. Negative 19x cubed square root of 5x. So I'm going to type in negative 19 x cubed. Move my screen around a little bit. X cubed. And then square root. And they give you the square root button, which is great. 5x. And there you go. And you'll see, I think they break it down the same way I do. I like putting things in different boxes. They kind of bring the perfect stuff and put it in its own square root. So you could do it that way if that makes more sense to you. And then make sure you multiply everything that's in front of each square roots together and then look for like terms. And as I said, now we have like terms. So we're going to add the coefficients to get the answer. So I wanted you to see one and hear one from me before you try to do any in that section.